This is Shy,
And this is Megan,
and this is the Magical Happy Hour.
a podcast where we share our love for Disney and theme parks, travel tips, food.
And anything else we feel like talking about.
Well, this is a very special episode 10.
Yes.
Why is it special, Shy?
We have a special guest here with us, a former Disneyland cast member, Miss Jordyn. She's going to be answering some questions for us and giving us a little peek inside of the magic.
We're very lucky to have her here with us, taking some time away from her own personal busy schedule.
Yes, super thankful to have her here. Say hi.
Hello.
So we're just going to get right into it, Jordyn. We have a few questions for you.
Well, super excited to be here, chatting it up with y'all.
Yeah! We're so excited to have you. So, starting with your career with Disney, can you tell us a little bit about how you started working for Disney and your experience with the Disney College program?
Yeah, sure thing. So, like you mentioned, I got my start with Disney with the Disney College program in Anaheim. Unfortunately, there's no longer a Disneyland College program in Anaheim, which is a bummer. But that's when I started back in 2019. So my college program was January 2019 through end of July 2019. And then I stayed on as a regular cast member for up until August of 2021. So yeah, pre and post pandemic.
Yes. So I'm sure there was a lot that went on in that as well. Working during the pandemic and getting told the park was going to be closed for 2 weeks.
Yeah. We found out with the press. That was a fun day. Thankfully, I was off, but my friends that were there working regular shifts during that day, where there's a lot of buzz going on. Somebody just went to the break room, had their phone open, and they had family members texting them, Disneyland's closing. And they're like, what? And then would come out from their break to the other people. And did you guys hear?
What?
Yeah.
That's absolutely wild. How? That is, how are you not going to tell the people that are literally at work, but other people know?
Yep, because that's the thing. It's, a lot of things we find out with the press, which is like, I understand because you never know who, anyone trying to sell or give, tips to blogs or whatever. The vault is very tight. It's like must know, need to know basis with the mouse.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense in some way, but I mean, you'd think that if people are not going to be working and they're in that current position, you just hope it'd be handled better. Big company.
Oh yeah,
you all know how to run a company.
That's how it was through the pandemic as well. Remember when they thought we were opening in July of 2020? That was a thing. They're like, oh, we're expected to be back. And everyone's like, hey guys, hear that? We're expected to be back. And then it came and went. I was like, just kidding. Maybe next month, maybe next month. And then eventually we got word. Oh, then they had the formal layoffs process because a lot of us were furloughed. And then according to seniority, they went down the list and some people got the call that unfortunately they were let go. Many of which were given the opportunity to return. But that was a weird time. 2020 was just a weird time because then you didn't know if you're going to get the call. Then people started getting called back to work. Didn't know if you were going to get that call. I got that call around April of 2021, and yeah, so that's when I came back.
Wow, that's a long time to just be
Yes.
like up in the air. Just for anybody that may not know, do you mind sharing a little bit about like the nature of the Disney College program?
Yeah. So my experience with the college program, I found out about it while I was in college. I'd seen on social media somebody I went to high school with posting about starting a Disney College program, and I was curious about what that entailed. Because they have it on their careers careers, internships, and programs is how they kind of divvy things up on their website. So I wondered, internships and programs. This is a program set about. And they have it in varied. So with the Disneyland program, they had the fall program and the spring program. And with those, and then at Disney World, it is, I think, fall, summer, spring, and there's a lot more variations of it. And you apply on their website, just like any other application. And from that process, if your application and resume gets picked up, then you move on to the next step, which would be, in my case, there's like an online, kind of like a survey. Reminds me of like personality tests you're given, where it's like there is a statement, scale of 1 to 5. Is this most like you, least like you? And it's about 20 questions. You answer all of them, and then you wait. And then the next step, if you move on from that process, is a phone interview. You schedule your phone interview, they call you, you have the interview, and then it's a waiting game. And hopefully you get an email saying you've been accepted to the college program. They give you your offer. You have 24 hours, I believe, to accept it or deny it, and then it goes from there.
Yeah, so
It's
what is the Disney College program exactly?
So the Disney College program is a really unique experience, I will say. I don't have, because a lot of people ask me or like what the process is to work for Disney. And I feel like the college program is a very a very specific pipeline. And so you join in, basically you're kind of infiltrated into a regular crew at Disney. There's a variety of positions. In Disneyland's case, we didn't have as many as Florida's Disney World program. There, they have everything from character performers, or I should say, entertainment roles, custodial roles, photo pass, all that jazz, attractions, food and beverage, which is what I worked. And so when you get your offer letter, they tell you you've been accepted and what role you would be going into. And then you don't know where you're working at until after you join. So I didn't know where I would be at. It's a total waiting game from the moment you get the offer letter. They will have Facebook groups, which is a huge tool that I think everyone considering doing a college program, even with the Disney World program, should utilize to be in the know. You can meet, just like with college, you can touch base with people and find out, hey, who's gotten a call back? What's it like? This, and that. Oh, are they sending out offer letters today? Or what recruiters have you talked to? A lot of people like to keep tabs on it, the different waves, as they call them. Then you can get in touch with people that would be potentially future roommates, or you could go ahead and wait and just see where they put you. They do house you, but they have the option of what they call a local college program. So the only difference is whether or not you have the opportunity to commute from your own location and be in charge of your own housing, or be put in college program housing. For me, that was the major benefit joining the program, because I had always wanted to venture out into Southern California for work, but I didn't want to move there and then find a job. So the college program offered a unique experience with like a set start date and end date to just sample the vibes, go there knowing I had a job, I had housing set up. They pay you, and then they take out money for rent. So you do pay rent. Weekly was the case, I believe. No, bi-weekly. But also you don't have to pay utilities. Everything's furnished. It's a very unique experience, and I would say it is fun. They have opportunities for what they call wellness or non-wellness living, which is basically the 21 and up alcohol is allowed in the apartment places, and then the under 21 gang, or anyone that just doesn't want to live in an environment where alcohol is present. I just think it's funny because there's a word for wellness apartments, but there's no word for the apartments where alcohol is allowed. So we'd have a joke that in my apartment's case, oh, we're an unwell apartment, or we're the non-wellness apartment.
You're just in a regular apartment.
Yeah,
So that would be funny if they had a real word.
oh, is it a wellness apartment? Because you can get in trouble. There's rules. There's like any
Sure.
dorm type experience where if somebody's in your apartment and they're under 21, everyone can get in trouble. You can get kicked out of the program. It's very cut and dry. But people did, there was no set way that people would phrase it without it coming out like, oh, wait, before I go over, can I bring like BYOB, or are you guys wellness apartment? No, you're good. We're an unwell apartment. Only thing well here is the drinks.
Nothing's bad here.
That's so good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're making me feel like, oh, I guess I should have looked into that before moving to Southern California, because I moved here with no job and just hoping. I literally walked down the street, like walked around the block, saw a restaurant with a hiring sign on the window and walked in. They hired me, thankfully. But
Yep,
I
and
mean,
it
ooh,
works. I I didn't know if I would even look into the program for sure. I always eyeballed it. I was always curious about it. And
mhm.
then I told myself after graduation, depending on if I have anything lined up, like why not? Like let's try it. Because I didn't really know anyone personally other than the old high school acquaintance that I saw on Instagram. I didn't have anybody that I could ask the questions and figure it out. And I like to know what I'm getting into, because you hear horror stories with any place.
Yeah, with
Like
everything, right?
oh, if that's too good to be true, it probably is, whatnot. I watched a lot of like vlogs and like of people in the college program, just a whole universe on its own. But I feel like in general it was very beneficial. It was really neat and unique experience. Um, where basically, sorry, such a roundabout way of answering your question. The college program, what I would tell people is, if it's a unique opportunity to work for Disneyland, there's a start date and an end date, and you have to be a college student, a current college student enrolled in any accredited institution. So it can be a community college, it can be a university, public or private, as long as you're enrolled, and at the time of applying, you are taking, I think there's a certain amount of units, and you have to be able to prove that.
But
Or,
you were recently
mhm,
graduated.
that's the thing. Or within 6 months of your graduation date,
Okay.
you qualify, and that's for the college programs as well as their internships. It,
Okay.
with internships, I think they say, or with internships and programs, it's graduated within 6 months of applying, or currently enrolled in a program or internship at the time of applying.
Got it. And then, so aside from your working there and you're living there, did they have like, were you required to go to like weekly classes or something like that?
Yes, so that is the college part of the program. I will say it's different well, now there is no Disneyland program anymore, unfortunately, but the big difference between the Anaheim program and the Orlando, Florida program was that in Anaheim, the Disneyland programs, courses, classes, wouldn't know. There's another word. You'll see. There's different opportunities to show up for, and there's like a point system. The Disneyland program was required. You had to meet a certain number of points per month,
Mm.
or I believe your status in the program was jeopardized.
Yeah.
Whereas the Florida program, classes and extra events and things were optional. So my experience is in the college program, you worked, and there are opportunities for every month. We got a calendar of different college program opportunities, and our teams, our management in whatever locations we were placed, always knew that, okay, college program, they'd have to work around our schedule. That's what was really unique and awesome about the college program, was they tell everyone as soon as you walk in, like, oh, we have some CPs. And the main cast members, depending on where you are, they'll be like, raise an eyebrow, because as a college program participant, you automatically get 3 years seniority,
Oh,
for
wow.
scheduling purposes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
When you said something about seniority earlier, I was like, oh, okay, well, clearly you're at the bottom of the barrel, but apparently
Exactly.
not.
Yes. So,
Wow.
and that's also because they, want you to have the best experience and maximize your time, but at the same time, there's these courses you have to go to. So your schedule has to.
They have to have a way to
Mhm.
accommodate you, obviously.
Mhm. And
But okay, my next question is when you were done with the program and you were just working there outside of the program, did you lose those
yes,
3 years?
it
Oh,
goes
that's
back.
terrible.
So
It's fair,
that's
but that's terrible.
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 I was curious about that because I follow I've like followed this person on Instagram who I know she did the college program and then transitioned into like other positions within Disney, and she's worked at different parks and in different capacities now. But I saw that she had mentioned I remember she mentioned something about the points with the classes in like some of her posts, but then also like was struggling getting a position afterwards because she was like at the bottom of the barrel again or
Mhm.
something like that, or it was just like a whole adjustment, whatever. I
Yes,
was
yes.
always curious about what
Hmm.
those were all just puzzle pieces and you're putting the puzzle
Yeah.
together.
And it's totally something to be mindful of. Again, I like to have all my bases covered when I go into like anything new. And so I'm happy I was aware of that because I knew what I was getting into type
Yeah,
vibes,
yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
So when people would ask me like, "Oh, how do you like your college program? How do you like being in the college program?" I would like look at them and be like, "It's what I signed up for.
Okay.
Like it's going how I expected it to be." Cuz and it's so lame, but it's within any job field. You know, you have the newbies coming in.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so when you have the new people coming in this case, Disneyland had new college program participants coming every January and August. You're getting new people coming into your work environment that have 3 years seniority. All of a sudden, those regular cast members, their schedules are adjusting for the CPs. And um, as a college program participant, it was so nice because they have to give you a certain amount of hours to make sure that you're able to pay the rent that they're going to take out of your bank account.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, not so many that you're not part time because you have to
Mhm.
stay part time. If you request a day off, with 3 year seniority, chances are, depending on how your location stacked, it's pretty likely you're going to get your requested days off. However, sometimes I'm told, and I did see a little bit because I was there or as a regular cast member when some um, new waves of programs were coming in, uh, college program participants sometimes can get swept up in the magic and they're like, this is great, I want to stay here. Yeah, I want to stay on after my program. Yeah, I'll get an apartment and I have people that I'm going to be rooming with, but they don't anticipate the potential cut in hours.
Mm, mhm.
And so it can be a bit of a shock, wake up call, or they could become jaded to the experience. It's like, oh, this isn't what I signed up for. But it is. But yeah, I was prepared for that. And again, you can take on just like any job, you can trade shifts. Well, it's different by department. That's a whole thing. While I was there, you can pick up shifts, you can give them away to people, you can trade. There's ways to get the hours that you need. Facebook pages for that too. But that was, yeah, the major perk was being able to have 3 year seniority. And as far as the classes, quote unquote, go, I refer to them more so as like seminars because it's not like there was homework or they led into each other. They were all kind of standalone, based off guest speakers for the most part. We would have people from the company. Sometimes it would be like a panel. There's like a graphic design seminar, and they call it something nifty. And there's a panel of a few people that work in different areas of the company. For the graphic design one in particular, we had a guest speaker who his job was, for lack of better terminology, of like he drew and made the like blueprints for the manuals, handbooks of different toys that Disney would put out, like their toys. And so there's a certain age range, and he was like, yeah, this is my job. And he showed slides of like things he'd worked on, and he was like, that's what I get to do, I get to draw toys for a living. And he's like, it's pretty cool and I like my job. Other times we had people come from the video production aspect of things. We had people come from Burbank, people that worked at the parks, The VP of finance for Disneyland came and spoke to us one day, and my roommate ended up having him as her mentor based off of that seminar. Afterwards, they always welcome you to come up, like talk to us. We'd be happy to, look at your resume, whatnot. It's a matter of the opportunities that you take to do that. Because otherwise, you show up, you listen to the guest speaker, and you go back to your dorm, go back to work, whatever, and the program can really go by in a blink of an eye. It's what you make of it. Because people ask, oh, is it supposed to give you some sort of upper hand, or does it carry a lot of weight if they see it on your resume? And it's like, yes and no. Being in a program isn't automatically going to make your resume get plucked from the bunch. However, if during your program you're going up and putting that extra time in and
networking,
it's all about networking. I'd say that's the biggest advantage of the college programs is they give you opportunities to network. Again, at least for the
Disney company.
for the Disney brand and for the Disneyland program, especially Florida's program, since Florida, different state, different labor laws and whatnot, how they schedule and handle their cast members. They have way more, because they have several parks there at Disney World. It varies, and since the classes are optional, sometimes people just don't go to the classes, and so for them it's just working for a few months. And if they're not doing that, some people can be jaded and be like, oh, it's they're just I've heard people before critique their program experience and be like, it wasn't what I signed up for. You don't get to do anything fun. They just work you to the bone. And it's like, that can happen, but it's not because the company is, and I do not speak for the company or represent them in any way. However, it's like, it's what you make of it. It's a job. At the end of the day, you're signing up for a job. You're getting an offer letter just like anybody else. And there's a risk to that, I would say. I think I had a very positive experience with my college program, and it was the perfect balance of work and play. You get the cast member benefits, like having your what's it called, main entrance pass, which is the badge that cast members can use to get themselves and their family and friends in. Obviously there's a lot of fine print there, but like that was really cool to be like, oh, if we have a day off, we can go to the park with my roommates and like have a park day or things like that. Go get a churro at the beginning of the day before my shift, which there's so many checks and balances. It's never as quick as it sounds because there's a whole process of getting into the parks, but still you like
ideally could do that.
Yeah, you could. It's just a matter of what kind of energy you have and how you want to utilize that time.
Yeah, it sounds like just with really any job opportunity or job itself, like you can just work your job and go about your daily, everyday tasks, or you can talk to people, get to know what they do, learn from them, and take that along with you as you advance in your career.
Definitely.
So, moving a little bit away from the college program itself, I wanted to ask you, have you always been a fan of Disney, or like when did you become a fan?
For sure. No, Disney's always been a part of my life. I will say I know people, like friends that like brand themselves as like, oh, I was a total Disney kid growing up. We were a Nickelodeon house. We were a Cartoon Network house. I don't know. I had a TV in my room, so I was an everything child. I loved just the classics, Disney Channel, Playhouse Disney, loved me some Disney, would go to the parks, not super often, but it was the core memories were made the certain birthdays or summers that I went to Disneyland. Very, very special place. It's always been a super staple of the childhood, definitely. And then into obviously adolescence, High School Musical, Hannah Montana, that's my era too, into adulthood. Once I got the opportunity to dabble in Disney, like myself as like a job, I was kind of worried, like, I love it so much, what if this makes me not love it? But no, that was not a factor at all.
That's awesome. Yeah, that that was kind of my fear when I went to move to Southern California. I had several people ask me like, "Oh, are you going to get a job at Disney? You're there so much. Why don't you just get a job there?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm scared. Like it's going to take away the magic. Like I don't want to risk it."
Yeah.
As far as when you were working there, what was your like favorite part and least favorite part of working for the company?
I'd say favorite part was definitely all the behind the scenes things we're able to see. Just in general, all the special things that like cast members have, the special privileges, like being able to like get into the parks, even when reservation system was a thing. Still, just knowing you could plan a Disney day and you already lived there. I lived even after my program. I lived in Anaheim, so that was nice. And then there's Company D, and being able to go to special cast member only stores that your badge gets you into. Like those perks were really neat. And also, while I was there, besides the pandemic, there were some fun things I was there for too, like the opening of Galaxy's Edge and Avengers Campus. And with that comes cast member previews and getting to see the lands before anyone else, and bringing you get a +1 to that. So being able to bring somebody along and be like, yeah, like, yep, that's me. What, like, this is a big deal? Yeah. You want to see Star Wars Land? Sure. I did not take those moments for granted. Those are the moments where I was like, wait, no, like, I need to pause. This is really cool.
No,
Testing out the
that's super
rides.
cool.
Testing out the rides is probably the coolest, most fun part. I can't even try to be too cool for school about like the when Galaxy's Edge opened, the only ride that they opened with was the Millennium Falcon ride. I worked in Disney's California Adventure side. So the day we're at work and everyone's saying, "Oh, have you tried out the ride yet? Have you tried out the ride yet?" And I'm like, "No." I kind of figured, well, maybe cast members on Disneyland side get to or whatnot. And it's like, no, there's like a week, there's a certain set of days where from this time to this time, you show up, scan in, whether you're working that day or not, like show your badge, and you can, because they want people to test the ride. And there was a time where I was able to do that during my shift. It was on my lunch, so obviously unpaid, but it was really neat that day where your lead is just like, hey, have you tried the ride yet? Okay, what time do you want to take your lunch? And me and my friend, we got to, like, on our lunch, go and cross over to Disneyland side. And it was like, what? Are we supposed to be here? Yeah, we work here. We have a badge. We're allowed. But we're just like, okay. And so we go backstage. There's trams and all this stuff. And then we get in line. We're waiting. We're looking at Batu. And we're like, this is the Star Wars land. We're here. Oh my gosh. Like we're looking, they're still building things, and we're just like,
Oh my gosh.
we're like, oh, this is so cool. Everyone's there in costume. They're different costumes from different lands because everyone's just there either before their shift, after the shift, on their lunch break.
Oh wow.
Like people are just
cool.
it was just
The
a
people
thing.
of Disneyland are gathering.
Yeah, you're right. The people of Disney. Literally, it was so, and it felt so wrong because you're seeing like, you know, a Toontown costume in a line in a queue to begin with, and and they're also in Galaxy's Edge, right next to a Tomorrowland costume and a Pixar Pier costume. Oh, look, they both work the Incredicoaster, and everyone's just in line. Me and my friend were waiting, and we're just like, oh, this is so cool. And we're looking at the time to make sure like it's not cutting into when we have to head back. I get into the ride. We're like, here we go. We sit down, right? Pull on the yellow tab. Boop, boop. We're like, let's go. And it starts up. And it broke down.
Oh
They're
no.
like, I'm sorry, guys. They did their spiel because, the attractions cast members for Millennium Falcon, like, this is their, training and run through as well. And they're like, did their, spiel, technical difficulties and whatnot. Our mission has been postponed, whatever it was. And we had to get off and leave the ride and go back, clock back in from our lunch break. And I I worked quick service food and beverage at California Adventures, and my college program, I was at Clarabelle's Ice Cream, Buena Vista Street Churro and Popcorn, and Grizzly Peak Churro and Popcorn. And so I walked back into Clarabelle's, which there's a bunch of people working, and they're all waiting for us to get back. We walk in to our friends that have already gone on the ride. They're like, "How'd you like it? You go on the ride. You go on the ride." And I was like, broke down right when we got on. Shame, laughter, humiliation. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go make some waffle cones. Nobody talk to me." But that was the best part. My most favorite part, yes, is the cast previews and the perks. Least favorite, easiest thing to say is the not so magical guests. If I were
The
to get
nature of customer service.
right, really specific is, so you guys know magic moments. If you heard that term, the phrase when cast members make magic moments for
Yeah.
guests. And sometimes it's, in our case, in food and beverage, like, let's say, see a princess and it's her birthday, and you decide to say, "Here's a churro for the princess. It's on the mouse. Have a wonderful day." Like, I think now they're more strict on it. The last I heard from somebody I worked with, I think this was back in 2022, actually, they weren't allowed to do that anymore. People, I guess some people perhaps abused it or just weren't making good judgment calls. But there are magic moments. And when there's guests that basically ask you for a magic moment and then get mad when you don't,
Wait, really?
yeah. Because if
I didn't.
anything, that's a special thing. Hey, I'm able to do it. I have the privilege and I am choosing. Because if everyone got a magic moment, it wouldn't be so magical.
Well, also they don't know
They
what
think
power
they do.
everyone possesses.
I've had people, like, when I'm closing out a churro cart, which is probably like least favorite shift, is closing a churro cart. Very sticky, very. And at the end of the night, you have to dispose of whatever you didn't sell, whatever's still there. And I've had guests run up, send their kids up. And when I say kids, I mean, like, not like a 10-year-old who, if I'm like, like, whatever, like, they know, hey, like, I don't know, but am I gonna get it for free? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm talking about, like, sending, like, little 4-year-olds. And I have heard a mother be like, "Go, go, it's the end of the night, she's gonna throw all those away, she gets to give you one. Go ask her for one, she can get it." And I'm sitting there wiping the car like, "Lady, don't do that, don't do that." And then I'm like, and then I'm the bad guy because I have to pretend I didn't hear that. Because now, no, I'm not going to give you a magic moment. It's just, go, have her get one for all of us. Ask her for 5. She's going to throw them away. The nice lady. And I'm like, oh, now the nice lady is going to tell her no, because no, that's not. You just don't do that.
No,
And
it's a weird choice.
yes,
Don't do that.
and some locations really can't. Like how I
Exactly.
said, like in my case, in that location, there's a point where my friends say, "Oh, we can't do that anymore," or this, and that. And it's just like, "Oh, what a bummer." But I feel like it varies from location to location, different management teams, and with what's going on in the parks and what's feasible, really. Because again,
Mhm.
if everyone's making X amount of magic moments a day, it costs something at some point.
Sure.
Hypothetically speaking, like, there could be an instance where, let's say, somebody's car's not working, the machine's down, and it's just like, you know what, just take your pickle. You're good. It's on the mouse. And we do have to log it in what we call our spoil sheet to say, like, hey, that's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
we didn't, make money on, whatever. But, that person goes and takes advantage of that. And it's just like, oh, their machine's down right now. Go, go, go. See if you can get a free one. Like, that's not going to fly. Like, it's, don't ruin it for everyone, because then the magic just doesn't happen. That's probably my least favorite part is when, yeah, when people try to force cast members' hands in magic moments.
Yeah. That's so understandable. Absolutely. Shy and I, we make comments all the time when we're talking about kind of like, customer service situations. We're always like, be nice. That's
It's
okay.
hard. It's so hard, especially when you're working for a brand like Disney.
Mhm.
And it's more than just, like, the guest is always right. It's, these are people's vacations and you want everyone to have a positive experience. And at the same time, it's like the level of disrespect that cast members have received from guests and, like, and we're very limited on
Mhm.
what we can do and what we can say, and so it always breaks my heart when I hear of something going viral or whatnot that results in a cast member getting let go from the company when they're put in some situations. It's like the customer's always right, but it's just like,
What would you have done?
mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
like, what would you have done? What can you do? Oh my god, I
Mhm.
was there for the Toontown fight of 2020,
Oh.
2019. I
Mhm.
wasn't there because I'm not in Toontown, but I remember when that happened, and that's what everyone was talking about at the carts the next day. It was like, what would you do? Like, what can we do if we see something break out? That's Disney's thing that they really drill into us: see something, say something. You know, but at the same time, we can only do so much. We can only
Yeah.
say so much, and when guests be wildin', like,
I ain't risking
Mm.
my life.
So you mentioned it a little bit already. Where did you say that you worked? I know that you named a few different
yeah,
positions, like the different churro carts and Clarabelle's, but
yes.
want to rattle them off for us again?
No, for sure. In its entirety, I worked Buena Vista Street Foods, which includes Clarabelle's ice cream, Mortimer's Market, the Willie's Churros. I don't know the name of the popcorn cart, but that one. And then Grizzly Peak Churro, Grizzly Peak Popcorn. And then I worked Avengers Campus Quick Service Foods, and I worked Pim's Test Kitchen, the Terran Treats, and there's another, the shawarma carts.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that's so many places, like just in that one park.
Yeah.
Was there any one that you liked the best?
That's I would say Grizzly Peak Popcorn would be my favorite location.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever gotten popcorn there, but I love getting churros on Grizzly Peak and from Willie's. So
Yep. And
you've been at
what
two
you
of my
just said
favorite
is
places.
why it was one of my favorite locations, because a lot of people overlook the Grizzly Peak Popcorn cart, which on popcorn bucket release days
Oh,
is a big deal because everyone goes to the main popcorn cart on Buena Vista Street first because
yep.
it's the
That's what I was thinking of.
closest. And I don't work there anymore, so I don't mind if everyone goes to Grizzly Pete Popcorn. Now, if you don't want to wait in that mile-long line on Buena Vista Street, take a right instead of a left, go towards Grizzly Peak, right past Soren, and go to that cart. Yeah.
All right. There's some insider
Yep.
knowledge.
Insider knowledge right there, folks.
So, speaking of little insider knowledge, did you have any celebrity sightings or any celebrity interactions that you can talk about?
Oh, yes. Yes, 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 I do. And that's what's okay. I will add that on to what I like least about working for the parks is I get why,
Oh,
but we can't like if Beyonce walks in and walks up to my cart, I cannot let her know that I know she's Beyonce. Like you have to treat them like guests. You can get like immediately removed, dismissed from the company. Um and it's so hard. And especially because I so I'll list them off. Miranda Cosgrove was my first one. Miranda Cosgrove and Jeanette McCurdy, and then Maya Rudolph. Um,
oh, love.
and then I've seen Matt Damon from a distance. We made eye contact. It was a moment, I swear. um, one of my well, those are I served popcorn to Kourtney Kardashian and her daughter Penelope, and Travis Barker was there as well. That thank God that was when we came back from the pandemic. So I had my mask on, and we had to put things on the table. We weren't allowed to hand things over. Thank God for both because A, hands shaky as heck. There would be no popcorn left in there. B, face twitchy, spazzy. Like, like literally. And I don't. For me, I just what's the word? Like starstruck. It's one of those things you don't know unless you're put in the situation, and
Yeah.
it's not even like I
Even if you're not like a Kardashian fan,
no.
like I would still be
It's
like
this
taken aback that this
yes,
celebrity
exactly.
standing right here in
It's
front
this
of
like
me.
visceral response that at least me personally I have no control over. And
there might be some like pressure that you're feeling.
Yeah, and then
like,
I'm
and you don't
scared
even know
that they're gonna know that I'm nervous and I'm gonna be weird, and then they're gonna say something and I'm gonna be fired because I spilled Kourtney Kardashian's popcorn and I called her Kourtney and I'm not supposed to know her name's Kourtney. It didn't happen, but it was going through my head. It was like a split second, and when it happens, you have to, because we get plaids like all the time.
Sure, of course.
And sometimes, I mean, anyone can purchase a plaid for a day. You never really know if it's quote unquote someone, or you never really know. Obviously, cast members, try to like crane their necks and see. But
I mean, I do that.
Yeah,
we talked about that in our last episode.
It's like you don't know, but like So I would say when Miranda Cosgrove came, that was during my college program. I'd only been working for maybe a few weeks, and somebody had said that she went to the parks, or that she was like, they're like, oh, she's here, or she's here. But I took that as like here in the parks, or it happened on my lunch break. I went and I came back and I missed someone cool, which has happened before with Robert Downey Jr. And I was very mad that I didn't get sent back on some random mission to get more churros, because just chilling in the break area, I guess. And that's how it goes. It's just, they're just around. And when they are, you can just round the corner and they're there, and you have to be cool. So somebody's like, oh, iCarly's here. And I was like, huh? And they're like, oh,
iCarly's here.
Right? I was like, huh? I was like, they're like, oh yeah, I guess she was here, and this is that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Again, there's so much hustle and bustle, especially Clarabelle's is a very busy location. And, and we're right next to Fiddler's, where they have, the Starbucks. And so there's always people in and out, in and out. So I'm just like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Neat. I keep working. No, she came and she ordered. Her order was in. She hadn't been served yet. I come back from my break. I get assigned to do the hand dip bars. I go back there. Oh, a ticket's printed. Okay, I'm making a bar for someone named Miranda. Okay, I start making that. Next ticket prints. Okay, what's that one? I look for someone named Jeanette. I'm like, okay. But then I'm like, wait, am I making, is this? Oh, they're still here. Oh, they're still here. I'm making Miranda Cosgrove and Jeanette McCurdy's ice cream right now.
Oh, they were there together.
Uh-huh. I was like, oh yeah, they go like all the time. And I was like, oh, now that I like came to and realized like that's what was happening. That's what I hate. Ignorance is bliss. Once it clicks, I'm a spaz. I was like, shooting. Now I'm making the bar, and like my hands just like shaking. I can't get anything to stay still. I'm like, and then my friend comes up, and he had already been a cast member. I think it was like his second year, third year, whatever. He knows I'm the new CM, and he's like, oh, you're making it for iCarly. And I was just like, yeah. And he's just like, no big deal or anything. She's going to eat it. No big deal.
Yeah,
He's like, she's like, you're just making something that's gonna be like go in her mouth, so no big deal. Like, he's just trying to make me just like, it's like, shut up, go away.
Does that help, or does it make it worse?
No, he was trying to make me more nervous on purpose, just like dragging it on. And I'm just trying to be cool because it's my first celebrity guest, and I'm like, oh my god. But she's couldn't have had a better first celebrity encounter, though. She's such a sweetheart. She's so chill. She's so nice. And so I walk up, place it down on the counter. Very important. I cannot hand these people things in the state I am in. I cannot. My hands are way too shaky, and I would be so embarrassed. And like, gotta be cool, right? So I put it down first and like slide it, and then I called her name. I was like, for Miranda, and I'm like, I'm summoning Miranda Cosgrove. I'm calling her name, and she was walking up to me, like.
I'm summoning
that as if I don't know, like they're with each other. I have to just pretend there's, and they walk up, and I was like, and then she's so sweet. She was like, thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. And I turned around and I was like, melts. I had to go to the back for a second, go off stage and just like gain my composure. I was like, oh my God, that was so cool. And then couldn't tell anyone, we're not supposed to say if we see celebrities, because then if it gets out, then their privacy is,
there are Instagrams and Twitters or whatever dedicated to it.
The grandmas, the Instagrammers and the TikTok, because they can do it, but can't come from a cast member, which is just like, because of course I just made iCarly ice cream. I want to shout it to the rooftops, but I gotta be cool. And apparently, she's there all the time, guys. Like, this
Yeah.
is just her
You're like,
spot,
I'll see my new bestie again soon.
right? Like, I gotta be like chill. No, I mean, yeah, what? Like it's rare. No, this is we can't give them the fangirl experience, unfortunately. But that is a common thing we say to each other, like a little game is like, oh, who would you risk it all for? What celebrity's the celebrity that you'd be like, I'll turn in my apron right now, take my blue badge, take my main
Oh,
entrance pass. Like, I cannot, like, let this opportunity pass.
okay.
And I was terrible with that because I could never really think of like a specific person.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not great with picking like anything, like favorites, not my thing. But I had some coworkers that were very, very serious. You'd think they're joking. One of them's there. He was like, "Oh, Frank Ocean, I jump over the counter for," and I was just like, "Oh, haha, whatever." But
I've
then
seen pictures of them at Disney.
as you get
Yeah.
to know them, you're like, "Oh no, you would risk it all." You like some cast members. I'm like, "Oh wait, this ain't no game. Like, it's a game." Like, it's just like, oh, hee, like, I don't know, like, F, Mary, kill. But it's just like, no, no, no. Like, they're, like, serious. They're like, no, I would take out my phone in the middle of a transaction and take a selfie with them. I'm like, oh, it's like that. Like, I would call my mom right now. I would FaceTime grandma. Like, they can walk me out. I'm not gonna, yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of adrenaline, but it is cool. It's cool to say, and it's fun to say. I feel like that's, if anything, the magic that can be lost is
Mm-hmm.
celebrity encounters, because there are some cast members that are just like, "What? Okay, big whoop." Like, they're here all the time.
Okay.
You have to be chill. This isn't Knott's Berry Farm, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Don't act like it's not cool. I just gave popcorn to a Kardashian. I turned around.
Hey.
There's a manager
Yeah.
there, and I was like, I just gave popcorn to like freaking Kourtney Kardashian. He was just like, they're just people. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but that's cool.
It's so cool. I yelled at Drew Carey while he was getting on the Matterhorn because I was really happy to see him.
It's Drew Carey. I mean,
I love Drew Carey. I used to watch The Price is Right every morning.
right? And you're like, they need to know I love them.
Yeah, he used to be on a ride. He used to be depicted in a ride in California Adventure. That's cool. But I didn't get to hand popcorn to him. We waved to each other. It was nice.
It was cool. Maya Rudolph was really neat too. I didn't notice it was her right away because I was so just hustle and bustle doing my regular spiels. My friend told me it was her as she was already there. She had been walking around. I was at Mortimer's. She was walking around with her daughters, I assume. And they were looking at things, picking things out, chips, whatever. So I was just waiting for them to finish. And right before they walked up, that's when my friend whispered, like, that's the lady from Bridesmaids, right? And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, yeah, oh, she's coming, be cool. Now I'm not cool. Oh man, I took the card, I touched her card. Our hands touched. Like, I was like, oh my god, I'm touching
Felt the
hands with someone that's
electricity.
on SNL. Like, this, I swiped the card, looked at it, it was real. And that is a thing though that they told us in training, like, not to do. They're like, you have to give them their receipt, right? And you're like, okay, yeah, yeah, give everyone the receipt. Or if they don't, like, but if they don't want it, like, we can throw it away, right? Like, they're like, if it's a celebrity, make sure you give them their receipt, or you have to throw it away. Do not be tempted to print yourself an extra copy. And it's just like, I wouldn't have even thought of that, but apparently it's happened.
No.
And then I'm like, oh, well, shoot, that's kind of smart. Well, no, not smart if it's going to get you in trouble and fired. But
that is
they're like,
smart.
I mean, it's proof they were here because it has the name of whatever card holder. I don't know. But I looked at her card and I savored that moment. I swiped it. And I asked her if she wanted her receipt. And I knew I didn't have to. But, like, actually, no, I didn't ask her on purpose because I'm handing her the receipt because I wanted another opportunity to touch her hand. So, because she was walking away and I was like, oh, miss, your receipt. And she's like, oh, thank you. And I was like, yeah, so those are my celebrity encounters.
So fun. You definitely had some good ones there. So you mentioned the receipt and like you have to throw it away. Any other weird, funny, or unexpected rules that you encountered?
Don't feed the cats.
Oh,
Oh.
or the ducks. But yes,
that
the
makes sense.
Disney cats, we'd call them the feral cats, but apparently they're very sweet. They wander around Grizzly Peaks.
Hmm.
Oh, yes.
We used to visit.
Megan knows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to visit one. They were so sweet. There was a whole group of people like crowded around trying to get them to come to them one day. And then my boyfriend walked over and bent down and, called him, went straight to him.
Yep.
I was like, what in the world is this?
They're so
Everyone
friendly.
was like, what? What? But he was very sweet. We miss him. I know that that cat got adopted, I think, a
Oh,
couple years ago, which is a good thing. But,
I love that. I didn't know they left the park.
they Shy knows the whole story. I'm sure she can tell you, but we're not, we're here to do a cast member interview, not a
It's a different
Disney cat
different
story.
the Disney cat episode. The animals of Disney.
The animals
It's coming up,
Disney.
guys. Stay tuned.
So, would you ever work there again? And if so, what would your dream position be?
At the parks specifically, like work for
Yes.
Disneyland.
Yeah.
I have encountered this before recently, and I really thought about it because I would say at this point in my life, a regular cast member position like I had before, probably not. Not that I don't miss it, but just the pay just isn't there. But a dream role at the park, I'd say if I got in with their any parts of their like events teams or the people. Oh, what is the name? There's a certain name for it. Um, there's different things backstage, like for example, cast member appreciation day and like those things. There's a team that, and they do more than that day, but there's certain times where you go backstage and they're like having something for the cast members, and other cast members obviously are working it. And I'd say those things are really neat. They have like different like, little giveaways, or they'll do swag bags, and they're at or the people that do the media events, which I know some people that have done it on, and with these positions too, like the ones I'm mentioning, I don't know how you come across them. It's more so as you work within the company and you hear about different opportunities as they come up, you get cross trained for an additional thing. And
Hmm.
you can work a media event one time. And since it's on your repertoire of like skills you're signed off for, you can opt to eventually like do more and more of it. You meet people within that team, you find openings for certain positions that I don't even know the names of, but I
Sure,
know that they're
really.
within that bubble. Yeah, it seems really fun. Those seem really neat. Not that I don't love interacting with guests, but the parks, there's just so many people at the parks, and it is very draining being outside all day, standing. And yes, we do get free waters, and they're great with our breaks, and they're great with giving us, shoes that are suitable, at least in foods. Like they provide the non-slip shoes for us, and they get replaced every so often and whatnot. They make it as comfortable as they can,
Hmm.
but it's just tiresome. It's just draining. So I would
Yeah.
say probably not back at the parks on site with guests, but something behind the scenes I could see myself wanting to do if the pay was right.
Nice. Yeah, like a event coordinator or
Mhm.
something within that realm seems like it would be really, really fun, and you'd be able to create that magic for the people that are creating the magic.
Yes.
You'd get to make that for the cast members. I think that they're so beyond deserving of that, and beyond deserving of having someone in that role that would really want to give back to them and serve them, because they give us so much.
They really do, definitely. Or like the events for like the for like influencers and stuff. They host media events. Like
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
cast members work that, and that's making magic for guests in a different capacity. I think if there was a good like gray area for like perfect balance of guest interaction making magic, but also in a smaller capacity, that would be really
Hmm.
cool as well. super cool.
I like never would have thought that those roles existed, but it totally makes sense that they do. They're
There's
like internal.
everything you could think of within the company, which the college program taught me also. Because you think about it, there's offices behind, Toontown. There's, their Burbank areas and whatnot. There's so many different roles where if you can do it out in the quote unquote real world, like you can do it at Disneyland. They need people to build the new lands. There's contracting roles, there's engineer roles, there's desk, admin, secretaries, there's HR, there's editorial roles, they have the websites, they have the social media, they have their apps. Like there's a million and one different avenues that you could take with the company, definitely.
And so, what would you recommend to someone who's interested in working for the company?
I would definitely say do your research and network where you can, because that's what it comes down to. Because you think about it, and even because I work for the parks and I also work briefly for Marvel Studios as well, totally different branch of the company. But the most common factor is the jobs that they post are already getting a million applications within 5 minutes of them being posted.
Hmm.
And not to say it's impossible to get your application pulled, definitely not. But I'd say if you really want to work for the company, like in particular, like you want to be in with Disney, you have to find other ways to get your name in the hat, get your foot in the door. That could include, networking events, bringing your resumes to different areas where I'm not sure now post pandemic where they like table at or whatnot. I'd say the college program, the internship program as well, the Disney Professional Internship Program. I don't know if they offer housing in the same way, but it's professional roles.
Yeah.
I'd say that would be a really good in. And there's ways about that. Like if you're saying, oh, like I'm not in college, how can I qualify for it's been years since I graduated. How do I qualify for that? Take some classes at your local JC and apply. You like that counts. Those things, count. There's workaround ways to get yourself, yeah, to get yourself access, for lack of better words, that don't involve, spam messaging recruiters from Disney on LinkedIn and Instagram. I think their programs are a really great way to kind of get that, because once you see how the company works and whatnot, not that it takes away from the magic, but you really do realize how much is possible and how easy it can be if
Mhm.
you just I'd say it's something that, because again, I can only speak from my experience and what I was looking for at the time. I think if I wanted to take a different route and I'd known, like, of the program, for example, I totally would have loved to do a college program while I was in college. And I'd say the people I know that have done the college program, some of my roommates, they decided they were going to take a semester off and work for Disney. And for some people, they're like, depending on your career path, it's like, that's a waste of time. Why would you take a semester off to roll churros and make minimum wage and go to Disneyland? Like, don't do that. Wait till after you graduate. But it has its benefits because you get there, you shake the hands, you network, you keep in touch, then you go back to school, and now when you return in the fall or spring or whatever that next semester is, based off the seminars you went to and whatnot, you're like, oh, I talked to this person, that person, I know what Disney's looking for now, so I'm going to get this internship, this job experience, and then my senior year I'm going to apply for their professional internship program, and now I have a college program under my belt, and I have this job experience that is right up their alley. I know what they're looking for on the resume, and you could go into it a lot more confident. And say if for anybody that's dead set on, like, no, I want an experience with the company, I'd say going through their programs is a good start.
That's really awesome advice.
Nice. Okay. That's really, really helpful information, I feel like, especially for anyone that's interested in working for Disney specifically. And I think it's also applicable information to work for any large company.
Yeah.
just finding a way to get your foot in the door and meet the right people, shake the right hands, ask the right questions. You have to, something I've learned even in nursing is you have to sell yourself. You have to network and make the right friends and know the right people to get into the position that you want to do, because 9 times out of 10, there's 10 people applying for one position, and you have to figure out a way that you are going to make yourself stand out, right? So I feel like those were
100%.
some really great tips. I was going to ask you like a couple of fave questions, but I know you said that's not your jam, so we'll skip those. And one last question that we have for you before we get into the questions that some of our followers had is, are there any secrets that you know that you're able to share with us?
Secrets. I will say it's kind of hard because it's also like what is a true secret?
Anything that like the casual guest, like maybe me and Megan might know it, but anything that like the casual guest going might not know.
If someone was saying, I'm going to Disneyland, I've never been before, or if I was going to the park with a new person, I would say, this is very, very common basic knowledge, the water is free. Bring a hydro flask or something. Do not buy water. As someone that's sold it, there's nothing wrong with it. I know some people don't like Dasani or Smart Water. Whatever. It's not about that. Just in general, there's plenty of water stations, and that goes for just snacks in general. Like, bring what you can to the parks and have, like, that's probably the biggest thing. Have your snacks on deck or whatnot. I always bring Ziploc bags to the parks in case I don't finish something, or like if it's fruit or whatever. Yeah, water, never pay for water. Always go in, ask for water cups. Don't be that person, though, that does not wait in line and goes straight to the counter where they're handing out the finished orders and stop a cast member that's trying to run ice creams to impatient people in triple digit heat to ask them for 10 cups of water.
What? Yeah, don't do that.
Don't be
Go
that,
to a
don't
water
be that
fountain.
person. But that, another, I guess, fun fact that some people aren't aware of are the carts. The carts have quarters and bills, but all the prices are going to end in either 25, 50, 75, or a flat out dollar. And so there's no tax on those carts. And so the prices for the same beverage, for example, for a soda is going to be different at a cart than it is if you go to a store. That's one. California Adventures. If you're looking for milk, that's going to be in Trolley Treats. We get that a lot. If you have any little ones and they're like, oh, do you have milk anywhere? Trolley Treats. They have milk. What else? Pickles. California Adventure. At least when I was there.
Where can you get the best pickles? Because I know people are crazy about their pickles.
Oh, they are. The first pickle is a thing.
The what?
The first pickle. The first pickle.
The first pickle of what?
Of the day.
Oh,
Megan,
okay.
the first pickle. There's so many things. Again, I felt
First
like
pickle on earth.
Right? Like, it's people will race from the gates at rope drop to, in my case, Mortimer's is at the front of the park. They go up to have a pickle, right? They want a pickle. No big deal. Cool. Another thing about college programs, so since we had more seniority, we had the better, quote unquote, more favorable shifts, the longer shifts. I did a lot of opening and midday shifts, and so or I had a few opening, and that was a shocker to me. I was super, super new, and I was with this guy Mark who'd been there for a long time, and he's just like, oh, I think I hear them talking about first pickle, and I was like, what? And he's like, oh, I'll let you sell it. And I'm so confused. Just sold a pickle, but they were so excited. That's really all it is. You sell the pickle, and they're like, is this the first one? Am I the first one? And you're like, yep, it's you. And yeah, people go crazy. They'll go get a pin. And have on there celebrating first pickle.
Hey, love what you love, right?
They showed me multiple pins they have collected from multiple trips that all say first pickle. And sure, anyone can get a certain number of celebrating pins and write first pickle on it, but they know they earned those. And
Yeah, it doesn't count unless you
it
earn
doesn't
them.
count unless
What's
you
the
earn.
point?
And I will say, I think the spicy pickles on Disneyland side are the best pickles. In my opinion, I think the regular pickles are just a little too salty. I was really excited, especially because when I would go to Disney growing up, I think I had two major Disney trips. And coming from Northern California, just the main trip was like getting there. And once we were there, we weren't shelling out money on the snacks. So I didn't know once I went to work for the parks, a lot of people in the program, well seasoned Disney goers would be like, oh, what's your favorite snack? This, and that. And I hadn't really tried anything other than churro. I didn't know. And so I was like, I mean, I don't know. This time I got this, that time I got that. And when you're working there and you have the opportunity and you're living in Anaheim and you have the opportunity to go in after your shift or on an off day and you're like, after weeks of serving this, I get to have one. You just imagine what it tastes like. And I feel like that's working anywhere really with food. It's like you always wonder, everyone keeps ordering this. What's so special about it? And I was disappointed when I bought my own pickle. And
Oh no.
it's really salty. But I will say a favorite that I can say without a shadow of a doubt. I don't know if it's there anymore. I don't think it wasn't there the last time I went. But Clarabelle's would sell a michelada is what they called it, and or no michelado. So play on words, helado meaning like an ice cream bar, and then miche ave, and so it would be beer, tahini around the rim, and chamoy tahini, a Bloody Mary sorbet.
Oh.
Yeah, it was unique because I know there's other micheladas in the park, but that
Yeah,
was
there is.
what made ours different. Was it had ice cream in it, and people would be like, "Ice cream in my miche?" Like, no, and you're like, "No, you ain't had it like this before." And like, it tasted so good that I definitely couldn't try while working. Every now and then,
Sure.
there'll be times where they'll be like, "Hey, like." Management will tell us like we can have a scoop of vanilla on our break or like that day or like something like that where or we can sample the new churro recipe they're trying. And so we'd be like, oh, I can try it. There's never going to be a day they're like, try the beer float. Like ever. Our beer floats were good. Grape soda. Was it? Yeah, grape, like a hard grape soda, hard root beer, Guinness, and then with the vanilla bean bar. Those were good, but the micheladas were the absolute. They were the tastiest. Better than Hollywood Lands, better than anywhere in the parks. They took it away from me. I'll never forgive them for it. Me and Mickey have some beef, maybe, possibly, allegedly, for entertainment
Making
purposes.
me mad.
That was, yeah, my absolute favorite.
I will say that Clarabelle's, I feel like, is the most underrated place in the park to get like an alcoholic drink because they do have those. I've gotten a few different beer floats there and they're always so good.
They're so good. They are so good. I'm trying to think like it's been a minute. What else would people want to know that they don't? Oh, okay. So if you're getting a beer float, I don't know their options now. If you're looking for the one with the highest alcohol percentage, it is the Not Your Father's root beer, the plain root beer.
Oh
People
yeah,
would think the Guinness because you're like, oh, it's beer, but it's it's the regular root beer floats.
yeah,
Which
because Guinness is like 4.5% and Not Your Father's is like over 7, right?
something.
Something like that.
Do you get bored and you just start reading the labels, and you just came up with that on my own? But it's like when people ask you, you're not, because we do have to take safety courses and whatnot for serving alcohol. Lots of funny guest stories with that. But yeah, when so somebody walks up and they're like, hey, which one is like the highest percentage? Like, oh, well, you asked me like that, so I can't tell you. I don't know, but I do know, and that is the answer.
Pretty sure it's stated somewhere like what the alcohol percentage is. So those guests just need to look a little bit harder.
Things like that like aren't, because what those things are technically specialty beverages or things that they don't know how long they're going to stay around.
That's a good point.
And then we don't always advertise, I'd say, well, at least at Clarabelle's, I feel like at the beer carts, they have it posted exactly. You know what beer you're getting and the percentage. You can Google it, yourself. Whereas in Clarabelle's, they just advertise it as like, try our hard floats. And like, that's really all the info you get from there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so on our Instagram, if you all follow us, we posted on our story that we're going to have a cast member interview. So we were taking questions from you all. To start off, somebody asked, do you feel you were compensated fairly for your job?
I feel like I was compensated what I agreed to.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And
that's
I,
generous.
I, so all the roles have different starting pay. My pay was at the time 2019 was 15 an hour.
What do you remember if that was above minimum wage at the time, or was that
I
between
believe
there?
minimum wage was 15, and we got
Yeah, that
15.
sounds about right.
If you worked an alcohol shift, so if you were um, scheduled to pour alcohol, because there always has to be at least one person, not just above 21, but there's a course that you have to take. It's like you have to go into, it's a whole day, like a training day in itself. It's a class, a legit class. You clock in, you sit in the class, and then at the end of the day, you get signed off and put into the system. You can pour, and
Mhm.
then they can give you specifically pour shifts. So where you show up and depending on your lead, they'll be like, no, Jordyn's the pour today. Like, let her do that, especially if it's busy. So like that's a designated thing. For those shifts, I'd get 15.25 an hour. So if you had the pour shifts, you got an extra quarter. Because the mouse is a generous one. He shares his cheddar oh so
Yeah,
frivolously. That
for
was
your new skill of pouring, right?
yeah, of pouring alcohol responsibly. And so, so a lot of people that I worked with, a lot of people I worked with that were part time like me, they had second jobs. And that's just kind of how it went. It's like, what's the definition of fair? It's a slippery slope, and there's a lot of gray. But I will say, I knew the pay I was getting, but it's no secret if you can get in touch with a cast member if there's a certain role that you're interested in to just ask and be like, what can I expect? Or how many hours can I expect? Because that's, I'd say, the hardest part is working your way up that seniority totem pole. And when I went into my program, I was very aware of my privilege and knew that some of the people I was working with, like, oh, like it's rough, because when you start, you only get, um, depending on your location, like a 4-hour shift. So a lot of times, in our case, the people with less seniority would be scheduled maybe a few 4-hour shifts a week, which at 15 an hour, like that's not really. And typically those 4 hours is closing the carts, so there's not going to be an opportunity to get extended. Whereas if you came in earlier in the day and it's like, hey, do you want to turn your 4 into a 6? Do you want to work a full 8? Do you want to work overtime? Like, those are options. But for people that are starting out new, those opportunities are kind of sparse. There's only itty bitty. And in my case, my location had the Facebook group where people would post their shifts and try to trade, or if people didn't want their shift at all and they didn't want to call out. I don't think you can do this anymore, which is a bummer because it, in my opinion, was really efficient system. Was they could give away their shifts. So let's say
Mm-hmm.
I'm only scheduled 4 hours this week. That's not going to cut it for me. But somebody's posting, hey, like, there's a concert I want to go to, or like my days off didn't get approved. This vacation's booked anyways. Does anyone want these? And they're posting they have 3 8-hour shifts. Like, yeah, I'll take them. Like, and they could do that. And so there's workaround ways. As far as, yeah, fate, the fair pay, it's always up for debate. I would say well, and like I said before, that's my main thing of why there's been cases I've been laid off, and people are like, oh well, you're looking for work. would you go back to Disneyland? And at that point in my life, I'm like, I'd be going backwards in pay. Like I can't do that. And it's not like, oh no, hate it there, we'll never go back. It's just if the pay was right, I would consider it a lot more. But fair pay, I feel like in that sense is in the eye of the beholder.
And like fighting for your hours as well, on top of, making minimum wage. And I'm just curious, do you know of anyone or did you ever work with anyone that was there full time?
Yes.
Okay. So they do have full time
Mhm.
positions, just maybe not as many.
It's just people that are full time typically have a lot of seniority, and it's like they're not going to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're working, they love what they do, they get their, 40 hours a week, they have their set days off. That's their lifestyle. Waiting for them to
Retire,
retire,
quit.
depart on their
Yeah.
own, like it's possible, it happens, but if you don't have that luxury of time, I would say it's
You're probably not going to get hired on as full time.
no. I would say I don't think so. I can't say that for a matter of fact, but based on my experience, I would just that doesn't sound right. I don't think so. Yeah, not to say that you can't stack up as many hours as you can until right beneath that full time mark, totally. But it is a bit of a puzzle to get if you want to get a certain amount of hours or whatnot, you really have to hustle for those shifts.
Yeah, I think we all know that, especially in California, if you're getting paid minimum wage, then you're probably not being fairly compensated, depending on the nature of your job. But especially a like front-facing, customer-oriented job where you're on your feet the whole time,
Yeah,
especially outside
and
in
it's
who knows
like
conditions.
with the perks, that's what everyone comes back to is like,
Of
but the
course.
perks, you get perks, and it's like yes, but
Hmm.
you know
Those perks aren't paying for me to
that's what I was gonna
live.
say. Yeah, like
Exactly.
okay, what good
Exactly.
is being able to go to company D if like I don't have no monies to buy to buy anything,
Yeah.
or I get
Yeah.
free access to the parks, but okay, I can go in and go on all the rides, but like in the sense of my college program, we get paid on I think it was a Wednesday, and then it was like yay money, and Thursday they took out like I think it was like
Your rent and
180
stuff.
for rent. Yeah, it's like
Hmm.
and it's just yeah that back and forth. I know people, and I in my location I had a lot of people that were around my age, which was neat because that's not the case everywhere. So a lot of the people I was working with were people that were students, or a lot were from the local area, born and raised, so they had family there. Some were living with family, some were living on their own. There was a variety, but I know people that I saw them hire on and they're like really excited to start. And they're like, oh my gosh, yay, work for Disney. This is so cool. And within my college program, I saw them like choose to depart because they got a job at Panda Express and they're making 18 an hour and getting more hours. And it's just like sometimes people, gotta, you know, I mean, I get it. Magic don't pay the bills.
Truly. On that note, funny you say that. Did you ever become immune to the magic?
Immune to the magic. I say no. And granted, I did go in with like pretty level head of it all. Like, so it's not like I had any bubbles that were bursted per se. Of like, oh, now that I know that it happens like that, like it's not the same coming as a guest. I say no. I say it contributes to the magic, knowing how everything goes down and all the little all the little special things. It makes you appreciate it more. Like for example, people would ask like certain recipes or whatnot. There's a certain treat we have on the menu, and oh my gosh, you can only get them there. We can only get them here. Like da 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 da. And I'm like, well, actually, if you really want to know, this is the type of this we use and the type of that we use, and you can make it yourself. And for some people, like I could see them being like, oh, well, now it's not special. But for me, I loved learning those things because then it's like, oh, like the magic is accessible. Like I can, like it's like it made it cool. I'm like, oh, that's fun. Like I can like share it on my own time, or coming to the park as a guest and bringing somebody else and being like, oh, you see that parade? Like, did you know? Fun fact this, fun fact that. It's no, I would say the magic hasn't died for me. I'm not completely jaded. I'm not a Disney cynic. I don't feel like that's possible. It's enhanced the magic in some aspects.
That's an awesome answer. The next question we have, I feel like you've gone over pretty well, but I'll ask it to you anyways in case there's anything that you wanted to mention that you didn't get a chance to cover earlier. But the question is, what was the interview process like? And what about training? What was that like?
Got you. No, definitely we'll go over this again because I feel like I wasn't very eloquent the first time around. So for me, for the college program, there's multiple steps to it where I send in the application. That's the first step. Next step, they reach out to you and ask you to take an online, um, yeah, like questionnaire type thing.
It's like an aptitude test,
Yes,
it
an
sounded
aptitude
like when you're
test.
describing it.
You take that. And then after that, I got reached out to schedule an interview date. I got a phone interview, which was I was so nervous. I missed them the first time they called. It was the one moment I left the room. I had notes everywhere. Like I was like ready. I came back and I saw a missed call from Florida, and I was like, no. But they called back, and clearly I ended up working for them. So it wasn't the end of the world. But then they call, and that call seems like the most intimidating thing ever, but really wasn't scary. After that, I got my offer letter and I accepted it. And then so in that case for the program, you get your start date. Before anybody starts, all cast members go through a kind of orientation process called, well, there's a few. There's one's called, they're called different things. It's basically classroom days. You'd go in, you get a name tag, and you sit in a room and you watch different videos about the what you're here to do. Some may call propaganda. I say we're just learning about the magic of the company and getting hyped up for the adventure we're all about to partake in. It's a very they make it so they really do make it so special. It's so hard not to be like
It's
you
kinda
really
nice,
can't,
though.
like, you can't sit there and just be like, what big verse. It's just like there's a moment where Mickey walks in and it's just like you're sitting there and you're spending the entire day watching videos about different things in the park and different magic moments people have made and learning about the company, what we do, proper dress, da 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 da, the rules of the land. And then it's just like, okay, guys, someone's here to see you. And the boss mouse walks in. You can't help but be like, okay, this is kind of cool. This is kind of cool. And then you have, your first pair of ears, and you have, like it is. It's those they know what they're doing. Their job is to make magic.
They
And
hook
they
you
do
in
it.
real early.
Towards the end of the day, you get um a paper that tells you your official start day, your training day, where you meet at. And then that's really when the ball gets rolling. Everything is Disney look, which they spell out with a lookbook. Business attire is usually the name of the game. You show up on your training day. In my case, it was the flagpoles outside the park. You meet with your trainers, and they take you backstage and they kind of tell you the ins and outs. Hey, this is backstage. We're going to get your guys' costumes. They take you to the costume department, which is so cool. And you get your uniform. And throughout the day, I had really awesome, thorough trainers that kind of threw in not just what you need to know, but also just helpful things, especially for the location, like little things. Okay, you guys are getting this apron. Just side note, we share these aprons with the Starbucks. So if you have one, try to keep it clean on your own, because if you return it and try to get a new one, there might not be any. And then they segue to this is what happens if you don't have a costume piece. They explain the points and demerit system, which I don't think they have anymore. Their discipline system is different now. But it's just kind of I want to say like 3-day process where, and that's with any new role. You'll kind of walk around and shadow somebody, and they'll let you have a few, in my case, like transactions. Okay, you'll get a few guest transactions at the register. Okay, now switch with the person you're training with. Try making the treat yourself, and then they sign you off. and they'll kind of test you a little bit to see
Sure.
if you know like what you're doing, and then you pretty much just show up for your shift and hope that the people that you're there with are patient and helpful, guests included, and you just kind of go. It's like riding a bike. It's like they can only train you so much before you just gotta test it out.
Yeah. I'm curious because I have experienced it was actually like one of my favorite encounters with a cast member ever, but I'm it seemed like they were in training. They didn't straight up tell us that, but they it seemed like there was like a shadowing situation going on because they approached me and the couple people I was with. This was during a food and wine festival. So we we were like sitting at a or standing at one of those like high top tables with our food, just chit chatting, and was just like asking us about how we were enjoying the food and wine festival and just like asking for feedback from us and like making some like really fun little chit chat. Just like really a lovely person. And then they walked away and we were like, okay, like that was different, but like how nice. And then another cast member came over and was like, hey, what'd you guys think of whatever his name was? And we were like, did we just get like double surveyed
Right?
right now? Like, what's happening? So I'm curious if like that also happened with you at all. Like, if like the people that you assisted in your role were ever asked about like how you performed in
Yeah,
your
like
role. Like,
feedback. I'd
mhm.
say no, thankfully, because that would
Okay.
that'd be so scary. But no, like um they definitely have their moments where they'll kind of in my case, we had a larger group of trainees, maybe with a smaller group that'd be more like easily like doable to like slyly, get questions, comments, concerns if it's just like one or two people for
Sure.
feedback. I'd say our group was with us. You knew we were training because we had two trainers, Allison and Rosie, and there was four of us, so a group of six in total, just kind of walking around the park. In most cases, you'll never see a group of cast members like that many unless they're all going to something specific, like a meeting or whatever, a backstage thing of some sort, or if they're training.
That totally makes sense. But thank you. I'm just curious.
For sure.
We had one final question. Did you have to sign an NDA?
Probably. Um, just in general, we sign a lot. Um,
Hmm.
so I probably have. Do I recall? Um, no, because eventually you just kind of get used to signing, and
Just signing your life away.
allegedly. I do not speak for the mouse. I may not even be a real person. No, yeah, there's you definitely know we have different trainings that we do on the computers where they walk through how to handle confidential information,
Hmm.
certain things we're allowed to share, not allowed to share, and then they quiz you. Like, I can't think of anything now, but let's say
It's okay. And
there's a
yours.
certain category of info, right? It's like you have like there's names for it. There's things like insight on, for example, like Galaxy's Edge. That anything we would hear about it, it's like obviously you can't share it. You can't share it. You
Hmm.
can't post it. Um, you sign that like okay, if you're like these are the rules when you're backstage. These are the rules for this, and that. And so they kind of piecemeal it in a way that you should have a pretty clear idea on what you should be doing or saying and not. A lot of it's common sense, I feel like. But I will say another just factor kind of going off of training and a lot of the other some of the other topics that we covered, something I disliked, but just is evident is Disney. You kind of they're so black and white because it is such a big company, and your trainers and your management and everyone like can tailor your experience and make you feel like you know like definitely know you and appreciate you as a person. At the end of the day, we all sign the same things, we all have the same rules, and things are black and white. And sometimes you won't know a rule until you've broken it. Sometimes has been the case where it's like there was miscommunication or there was confusion, and you like something just got like brushed over, like something seemingly minuscule, but depending on the context and what's going on, you could get called into the office and be like, "Oh yeah, you weren't supposed to do that." And it's like, "Oh shoot, well what now?" And it's kind of like there's been people who we'd see them get walked out is how we that's what we call it, because if you're dismissed or even if it's just like your last day or whatnot, um, you're supposed to hand in your badge and your main entrance pass, and a manager has to like escort you out of the park type
Yeah.
type deal. And so you'd start your day and you'd be working and we'd see somebody getting walked out and like I didn't know it was their last day, like yeah. And then it's like yep, they didn't know either. And it's really unfortunate, and it's like things like that, that's when it comes up like, well, I didn't know. And it's like, okay, but you signed to it, you agreed to it. And so I'd
Sure.
say as far as like NDAs go, I kind of loop it in the same category.
Mm-hmm. Sounds more like it's like a policy
Mm-hmm.
type stuff instead of like a like legit
Yeah,
NDA.
like when, for example, just they don't leave a lot of wiggle room, just like with the pandemic, how like we found out with the press. Now, if they had told us sooner, people would be saying something about it. Period. Even amongst themselves, like to their roommates or whatever, just like, oh my gosh, I just found out that they're talking about with this COVID thing going on, the parks might close, and then it could totally raise pandemonium. Is it? Isn't it? Then the press finds out, and then it becomes takes a life of its own. I will say Disney does a really good job at controlling their narrative, and things get I guess lack of better words, like revealed or put out there. They get released with very specific intent. It's always very intentional. Oh, for example, like Galaxy's Edge or Avengers Campus, all those previews, it's not like I signed a specific paper going into there saying, that was like a non-disclosure agreement. It's just like, okay, this is considered a backstage area, and then you have to follow the rules that you would associate with backstage areas. Like we're already kind of privy to the etiquette, what we can say, what we can't say, what we can do, what we can't do. Um, in that case, with the land previews, you walk in, you put your phone in a sealed bag. Be smart, don't try to get away with sneaking in a camera or whatnot, like to violate like anything like that. I feel like would have to be very, very deliberate, because most of what we agree to and what would be considered violating like an NDA, for example, would be pretty cut and dry common knowledge, like you'd know you were doing it.
Mm-hmm. No, that totally makes sense. Well, thank you so much for coming on
Yeah,
and
for sure.
doing this interview with us. You have such an abundance of knowledge of not just the college program, but what the interview process is like and just working at Disney in general. So this has been really cool.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. This has been super fun. um Apologies, I know I get a little wordy and a little scattered, but I really hope your listeners were able to follow and can take away some really cool tidbits and knowledge.
So, Jordyn, again, thank you so much for being here with us. It was so nice to have you. I know it definitely won't be the last time we have you on the show. And if any of our listeners have any additional questions for you, where can they find you at?
You can find me on Instagram at Jordysney, JORDYSNEY.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for listening. We post new content every Saturday, so please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and now YouTube at Magical Happy Hour Pod, and wherever else you want to listen so you never miss an episode.
And don't forget to review and rate us 5 stars. It really helps us out a lot. Share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to at Magical Happy Hour Podcast on Instagram. Megan, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Megan Creedon, MEGANCREEDON. And there's a link to my TikTok if you want to look at that too. Shai, what about you?
You can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Disney Obsessed Nurse. And if you're interested in having a professional travel agent that specializes in Disney and Universal Studios plan your next vacation, you can find the link to my website in our podcast notes or email me at Cheyenne, SHYANNE, at vincentvacations.com. We'll see you guys next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers!